On this beautiful Sunday night, we are coming to you live from our Nile Serena studios. This is Perspective with Josephine Karunji.
Welcome to Perspective with Josephine Karunji. Thank you for joining us for the program. This Sunday, we're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center Nile Room, and we will be talking about tobacco use among teenagers. Our topic tonight, social and behavior change among teenagers. And I'll start by introducing my neighbor to the very right, Amon Muliowa, who is a teacher by profession with over 23 years of experience, 12 years experience as a social and behavior change communication expert, 10 years experience working with the media, and an active parent. What does that mean?
Active parent means I have fathered children, and I'm continuing to father children as I take my role as a parent. Not to simply father children and leave them to be fathered by the world. I take my active role in making sure that I raise them up to be the children that must be.
Okay, okay, I think we've got it. Akram Salih is a creative writer and a poet. Akram is 18 years old and he has a passion for creative writing and poetry. He says, I do my thing to inspire other teens who share the same passion that I have. Welcome, Akram.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's great. Do you also have children?
Oh no, I don't have children.
Okay. Soon, okay. And finally, we have Bill Bekunda. Bill is the Executive Director of Healthy Youth Lifestyle Options. He's a recovery coach, substance abuse and addiction consultant, advocate and activist. Bill has been there and done that, and that is why I was glad you were able to join our panel for this evening. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Right, so to start our conversation, let's share some information that we collected from school-going children, teenagers actually, earlier in the week. We went about picking young minds and finding out what they liked and what kept them grounded. So we asked them 4 simple questions. The first question that we asked them was, what is your thing? And most of them told us they enjoyed music and dance, craft, novels and sports. The second question was, what is not your thing? And these were some of their responses.
Drugs like tobacco, shisha, and alcohol.
By not choosing drugs like tobacco, things which may distract my mind.
I'm undermined by my sisters and involving in peer groups.
Taking drugs, being influenced by peer groups that actually direct me to a wrong path.
Not gossiping, being influenced by others. That's why I hate it.
Something that's not mine is like gossiping about others and then going into clubs. Yeah, those are not my things.
Clubbing is not my thing. Gossiping others is also not my thing. And smoking tobacco is not my thing.
Every time I see her face, the lady that spoke at the very end, she's just smiling, and it just draws me in and makes me want to smile as well. So what is not your thing? You were a teenager once.
Ooh, what is not my thing?
Yes.
When I was a teenager.
Even now?
Even now. What is not my thing is gossiping about people.
Okay.
I hate that. And if there's anything I have against you about you, I'll come look direct in your face and tell you, you know what, Akram? You've done this. And that is that.
Akram, what is not your thing?
Not my thing is smoking.
Smoking?
Yeah.
Did they tell you to say smoking? Anybody? Did your parents say don't say smoking? We need to be sure.
Not my thing is smoking is a choice.
It's a choice.
And I choose to stay true to that.
Okay.
To stay true to the fact that I don't like smoking and I do not smoke and I don't want to be around it.
Wow. Bill, what is not your thing?
Well, like you said, I've been here, done that. I experimented it all. So my thing is nothing drug.
Thing. What is not?
What is not my thing?
Yeah.
Anything that's a drug. Any psychoactive substance is not my thing.
Okay.
Cigarettes, alcohol, and other drugs.
Well, you have experience, so yeah. I'm going to ask you about that experience a little later on. So we then asked these same teenagers the second question, and the second question was if they felt confident to make the right choices for themselves. Let's take a look at what they said.
Confident, because sometimes there are decisions that we make basing on others, like who like to follow what others are doing. So there I'm not so sure.
Sometimes I can make decisions, but later on they affect me or others, people who are surrounding me. So by the time they affect them, I have to apologize to them like that.
To be honest, sometimes I end up doing or following bad decisions because of friends, at times my parents themselves, or even my teachers. Because like I'm in senior 5, when I wanted a combination, I came here when I wanted Meg, but unfortunately my teachers were like, you're going to do history, so I ended up doing history, which is not my thing, but I'm believing in myself that I'm going to perform it more than geography.
We also like her. All right, so another thing that we asked them was, how do you stay true to yourself? And this is what they said.
I always decide to tell myself that I'm the best. No matter what's happened, I have to make it in life.
I stay true to myself by making good friends who will be so helpful to me, yeah, now and then.
I just pray to God. I love praying. I'm like, God help me. I'm with you, you're with me. And even being self-confident. I'm like, I'm going to make it. I'm not a loser. I know where I'm going forward. I just believe in myself.
Ask them to share some lessons with us to carry home, and let's hear what they said.
As young people, if we have talents, we should persist and struggle such that we can develop our talents, and we should not be discouraged by people such that we can actually become important people in the future.
As young people, we're not supposed to follow others, peer groups. Then another thing is we should not engage in drugs. And then drugs like, for example, smoking, taking alcohol.
Right, those were some of the students that we spoke to earlier this week so that we could set the stage for this conversation and not talk about teenagers in their absence. Do you still qualify for a teenager? Yes, you do.
I do qualify to be a teenager.
Okay, so what is it like to be a teenager in Uganda?
Being a teenager in Uganda today is being energetic, being creative, being in position to do certain things that are really unique. But again, being a teenager in Uganda concerns with being influenced by bad peer pressure. You have teenagers who are getting to smoke, tobacco, gossiping. So it's one way of being part of positivity and part of negativity.
Okay.
Whereby a teenager can be influenced in a good way or in a very bad way, depending on the circumstances around them.
Is that your experience, Akram?
To me, I've been influenced in a positive way, but I've seen teens who are passing through the negative side, and they have their own stories to tell.
Who have been your biggest influences?
Who have been my biggest influences?
Yeah.
My biggest influences as a teen, first and foremost, talk about the schools I passed through.
Okay.
Yeah, they have nurtured me a lot, my parents. And suddenly, I'll talk about Fly UG.
What's Fly UG?
Fly UG, to me, is a community of young people, of teens, who are doing best to express themselves in the things they believe in, the positive things they believe in. They stick to them in a positive way, and they vote to shun away from other bad things that may take away their positivity.
Okay.
Yes.
When the two of you listen, because I'm sure you don't fall under teenagers.
I'm a teen father.
Okay. When you listen to what all the teenagers were saying on the screen, what went through your minds?
Thank you so much, Josephine. What went through my mind was I have an 18-year-old daughter who was just sat her A-levels. And when this young girl said she wanted to do a certain subject, but she ended up doing history, it brought into my mind the issue of the different pressures that the young people these days have. And it's exactly what was going on between my daughter and I when she wanted to choose courses for university. The grandparents and I and almost everyone were like, you need to go and do law. We need a lawyer in the family. But this girl, I don't know how it happened. She was like, Daddy, I am not going to do law. So I said, no, I'm not done with you. I went with this girl to Makerere University, academic registrar's office, and said, now, what do you want to do? At the end of it all, what happened from the registrar's office was like, let the girl be. So the idea here is that when these girls were talking, I got these pressures that come from either parents and all around the young people to try and make them be
what
who
they want.
they are not. But if these young people are empowered and have had the right influence around them, I have a feeling and I believe that they can make the best choices that can work for them. So that's exactly what happened to my daughter. And at home we're joking that if she did it, then any other girl can also did it.
So Amon, at that point, you were a negative influence.
Exactly.
At that particular point in your daughter's life.
Logically, yes. But as a parent,
as a father,
there are some of those things that we say, you know what, we need to guide our children to be able to make the right choices. And to me, that was the right choice for me and the family, because her being the first grandchild in my father's family, all of us wanted to have a lawyer as the first graduate in the family. Little did I know that, fine, my needs and wants probably could differ from what she wanted. Okay. So I was trying to be an influence in a way as a parent could be. Little did I know that actually probably I was being a negative influence to this girl. And it happened to many girls and boys out there who are teens.
Okay. Oh, Bill, I suspect that if I allow Amon to talk, he will talk until the cows come home and we will not get to you. So you have quite a story. Which influences got to you to where you were when you were on your negative path? And you could briefly just share that story.
Yeah, well, I'm an alcoholic, and being an alcoholic usually comes along with things like cigarette smoking. At times you mix it with other drugs. Fortunately, I did not, but the way I behaved made people think that it cannot actually be alcohol alone and a cigarette that could cause me to do the things that I used to do. But it's only now that I understand a teenager when I came to learn about the problem. Teenagers become different when their fellow teenagers are around them. And there's an experiment that was done where they were driving through a maze with elders, with adults, much older than they are, and they performed perfectly well until when they brought their peers to be part of the audience. And then they couldn't drive straight, they were knocking things and all that. So there is a way they are affected when their fellow peers are around. And that comes because it's the brain. The brain is still developing. You'll hear adverts where they say, when you're under 18, you're not supposed to do this. That is because there is a scientific reason for it. It's not just that they don't want the young people to do it. Yeah. But their brains have not yet developed, most especially the part that deals with reasoning and judgment. So, yes, the one that deals with reasoning and judgment. So they are quick to do things for the momentary pleasure as opposed to the reason of why they're doing it.
So who was your influence?
My influence were the people around me, my teen friends, the cool guys, and the ones who used to wear good shoes, jackets. Yeah, we used to put on baggy pants and high tops. So those are the guys I wanted to be like. And remember that these guys, because I was in a boys' school from my S1, these guys were usually the guys who go out to party. They are the guys who smoke. They are the guys who do all the wrong things. And they are the 5 out of 50 who will tell the 45 to shut up. Yeah. You see the influence. So I wanted to be a part of those, and those were the people that influenced me.
So you keep mentioning the teenage influences, right? The fellow teenagers. How do we get, knowing that this is our reality, knowing that he's going to go to university and have all these people around him, how do we get our teenagers to stand firm?
Well, first of all, they need to know, because knowledge helps a lot. When a young person is given reason to do something or not to do it, it works. But just telling them simply reinforces their curiosity levels. You know what I mean? So they need to be told. That's one. They need to be shown by example. Don't tell me this and then you do the opposite. That's how a young person is. I mean, as they're still growing. There are many things that...
I think that one of the things that, that I notice actually around me and also around the teenagers that I've been around is that when you say, do not smoke, that is when now they get the urge to do it.
Curiosity rises.
You get curious.
Like
Yes.
when we are young people and when you are told something directly, it's like demonizing it and you are alienating something again at the same time. Like I tell a young person to not smoke, because you get curious along the way. Like why are they telling me not to smoke? You get. So by the end of the day, I'll end up smoking to find out why am I not smoking. But if you give a young person an opportunity to realize what they are, what they can do, instead of smoking, in case they are writers, they spend their quality time perfecting their writing. You're giving them an option which won't tell them to smoke. And you'll tell them that one thing that may take away your writing is going to be smoking, is going to be alcoholism, is going to be shisha or kuba.
What is Kuba? I keep hearing people mention it, but what is that?
Kuba is also a drug. It's also Kuba. To me, it's part of tobacco. I calculate it's part of tobacco, because it's another drug that young people take in perception that are going to maybe boost their understanding, boost their knowledge, their energy. But in the end, it's the negativity. They get the negative confidence out of it, and they've got this influence from other young people and maybe other people around them, just because they have not got stuck on one positive thing that they could do to perfect it and better their lives.
Okay, so you mentioned Kuba.
Yes.
And all the teenagers kept mentioning shisha. Are these part of tobacco smoking?
Thank you so much, Josephine. Kuba and shisha are part of tobacco smoking. The irony though here is that few young people actually know that when they shisha, they are doing tobacco. Few of them know that when they kuba, they are actually doing tobacco. I love the way he reacted when I asked him about kuba. It's like, yeah, it's no wonder, because if you have not interacted with it, you will find it hard to explain it. Young people going for these drugs. In fact, even schools had issues with kuba, I think 2-3 years ago, because students would come with kuba under the guise of, when I take this, I'll read hard the whole night. It takes away the sleep, takes away all this. So along the way, they realized that actually kuba is tobacco. Okay. It is something, it is a very illegal substance that will actually lead this young person from failing to realize their dreams.
Okay. Well, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center Nile Room, and we're speaking about tobacco use among teenagers. Well, before we took a break, I was asking you guys how we get these young people to stand firm. So you teach them all of these things at home, then you send them off to school where they meet all of these people from different backgrounds, or even when they're at home, they're watching all these things on TV. They're seeing people smoking on the movies and the music videos. To what extent? And how can we keep these teenagers firm?
To what extent and how can we keep these teenagers firm? I'll take you back to how you introduced myself as being an active parent. And I think one of the things that we need to do, during the break, we were having this conversation and people like, should we leave children to do their thing alone? And the answer usually is that, fine, we want them to do so, but the parents need to play their role of being active parents. And this one goes beyond simply fathering or mothering a child. Yeah. It entails issues of like, have quality time with your children, understand your children, get to know who they are, get to know what they want, get to know what the world around them is. I want to tell you people that my second daughter, who is in senior 2 right now, I'm one of the first people she talked to when she had her first menses. She go and say, Daddy, blood is flowing. Said, what is happening? Said A, B, C, D. Then I had to call the mom and said, you know what? This and this has happened. Then the mother told me, you do need to do this, this and this and that. Now, if I was this kind of father who did not understand my daughter, who did not take off quality time with my daughters and my son to talk to them and understand them and guide them accordingly, they would actually either go onto the net or call a boyfriend or call the neighbor's boy to tell them what to do. And you can imagine what the neighbor's boy would have told her at that particular moment.
No, I can't imagine. I'm not a boyfriend. Okay, Bill.
Yeah, well, what he has talked about is, that's the reality. There are the three principles, which are bonding, boundaries, and monitoring, which parents fail to do. Some parents feel that by giving stuff, you know, paying fees and all that, taking them to trips abroad, that is enough. But if you don't bond with your child, you will not know what is happening. If you don't monitor them, you will also not know what is happening, because bonding, they'll tell you, monitoring, you will see and know. And then the boundaries. What people don't understand is that the people who are least likely to start using drugs of any kind are put under rules and regulations for the time at which they are under the parent's jurisdiction. People think that if you are, as they call it, tight or hard on your child, it means that now when they break loose, when they go to campus, they're going to break loose and haywire and start everything. But remember, the brain is developing, and it develops, it reaches its full maturity in the early 20s, 23 to 25. So the closer they are to the age of 24, the more their reasoning and judgment capacities have grown. So if a person is allowed to, you know, just go around and do what they do, or even allowed by the parent to do some other things, what happens is that they're interrupting the normal growth process of development of the brain. And what does that do to them? They'll be at higher risk.
Okay.
Yes. So they need to be kept away from it first and foremost. And then and at the same time, you're bonding and you know, understanding the child so that you can have good results in the future.
We have a teenager with us, so we could as well ask them, Akram, do you have boundaries?
Actually, yeah, I have boundaries. There are things I'm supposed to do, and there's things I'm not supposed to do.
For example?
For example, I'm in a family where we have a time we're supposed to be in, whether a boy or a girl.
Okay.
You get, the moment you are under the house control, you are supposed to be in at that very moment.
Okay.
We have things you're not supposed to, like smoking, like drinking. There's no you come back when you're drunk and you enter the house. That's the way we are raised. But sometimes we teens, when we are growing up and it comes to our parents, we copy what we see.
Okay.
We copy what, it's like language. If I grew up speaking English, I'll speak English. If I grew up speaking Japadola, I'll speak Japadola. If I'm seeing my mom or my dad or my auntie smoking every day or drink alcohol, I may see it as a norm, as a behavior,
That's a good thing.
as a culture at home, whereby it's a role also to a parent. As you tend to prepare to cane your child for smoking, also remember what are you doing to help the child not to smoke, not to take drugs, because you play a better and greater influence out there to your child.
All right. Amon is looking at you like a proud father.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're saying. We are not saying that, okay, let the young people do whatever they want to do. No, we're saying, fine, let's allow the young people to explore.
Okay.
But play your role as a parent. And one of your roles that you could ably play actively is by being a good example to your children.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it's not it. Research shows that actually that young children who know that their parents disagree with the use of alcohol or drugs of any kind have 80% chance of not developing that problem. So it is an established fact. And we have the modern parents who think that, okay, let's let them explore. Now in that exploring, you know, they will stumble on something. It becomes the habit, because you see, there is a lot we cannot explain here, how the addictive brain works. You know, not everybody who tries it the first time will become an addict. Although we have some drugs which are known to have an immediate effect, but most of these, like tobacco, it grows with time, you know. And you know, it's such a deceptive drug because it speeds up the thinking reaction. Nicotine actually does. So basically, it can be really pleasurable to a young person who is trying. and then that develops into something which you would regret later in life.
Well, let's take a look at some of the comments that we've received so far. Joseph says, scientists say the prefrontal cortex, that part of the brain associated with restraint, decision-making, is still developing in teenagers. James says, young people need to be taught about responsibility. That is the best way to prepare them for life. Oftentimes, they're only told about having fun in life. Wrong advice, because anyone who has some experience of life will tell you that life is not about fun. It is about learning to carry the right responsibilities. And then Joseph again responds and says, because they are generally not yet cognitively mature, teenagers should be allowed autonomy, but bearing in mind the above caveat, supervision and family structure remain important. And we had a question from the audience. We'll take your question now.
My name is Maiga Johnson, and my question goes to all of you, most importantly you. You talked of parents, the way you've raised your children at home, but don't you think it's a failure it's a failure in living a life to example, or failure to act as an example to these young children, that it has led to the increasing numbers of smokers, drug addicts in schools and outside there?
Right, thank you. And I think that's what you were talking about, saying that...
I'll also explain more about that. When you go to schools, young people in schools, we young people, we have established ourselves with Fly-UG, I'll talk about it. And so recently we were in Chitebe Secondary School. When these young people were empowered, they held talent shows where they could showcase their talents to their parents. They could showcase that if, besides other things that we are not supposed to do, like smoking, we can do fashion, we can do acting, we can do music, we can do dancing. And they are spending quality time perfecting these things. It's a bond for a parent to trust some certain people to their children. Because you can be a father and a mother, but you cannot be a parent. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
Because if these parents, or these fathers and mothers, get to trust their children with parents or parental organizations, that way they could better their children's lives. So it's not for who to blame, but where the change comes from. And it comes from we believing in these young people creating a change in themselves, empowering them, expressing themselves in things and the talents they do, and that's the way through.
And just to add on to that, the thing still is that as we are empowering them, we need not leave out our role of supervision. Our role of supervision, our role of mentoring, our role of following up and being a good example to these children. I'll give you an example. Me growing up, during holidays, our parents would send us either to aunties or to judges or to something. Growing up, I came to realize that there was a reason my parents were sending me there. There are things that my father could not tell me or do for me or do to me or with me that my uncle could. So it was an issue of trying to mentor that boy. Let him go and talk to the dad. Let him go and talk to the mother as a way of like trying to mentor and keep our supervisory role as parents. Children or teens alone may not do it, but we have a reason why we are called parents. We have a reason why we are called fathers. We have a reason why we are called mothers. We have a reason why we are called who we are, guardians taking care of these children.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let's take another short break and we'll be right back. Conference Center, Nile Room. Well, I did some reading earlier and I found out that tobacco use is one of the leading preventable causes of disease and death in the world. And well, this is an old study, but it's estimated to kill 4.9 million people annually compared to 3 million annual deaths due to HIV. The World Health Organization estimated 1.1 billion smokers in the world, and this was in 2008. And the figure was expected to rise to 1.6 billion by 2025. And by 2020, which is 2 years away, well, less than 2 years away, tobacco's death toll was expected to be at 10 million. And 70% of these in the developing countries, as the tobacco industry is steadily relocating to the poor south due to tighter regulation in the developed countries. So let's take a look at some of the questions that I received on social media while we're off. Uganda has a very young population that may suggest a lot of hope for the country, but such hope is only possible if the young people have been educated. The majority of young people have limited education. The young people who are privileged to be educated carry a heavy obligation to both their less fortunate peers and to the country. So what ideals can we hold up to the teens? Some of the ideals promoted today leave a lot to be desired. Wealth through corruption, easy pleasure, rights without responsibility. So this person is asking, James is asking, what ideals can we hold up to the teens?
I think rightly so, as said somewhere, though he skewed it along the way, rights with responsibility. We realize that young people, as he rightly also put it, young people are an issue in this country. Over 70% of our population are young people. And in the studies that have been conducted, issues around family planning, sexual and reproductive health, they will tell you that Uganda might fail to realize her demographic dividend if something is not done about young people. And one of the things that government has always talked about is empowerment of young people with the right information, knowledge, and the skills. And that's exactly what communities like FLY, UG, is working on, to empower young people with the right information, the right knowledge, the right issues on how they can prevent issues like preventable death, like those ones from tobacco. You talked about the statistics, and I remember backstage you were asking me, do you have any statistics about tobacco? I do not have, but I have only one. Growing up, snakes kill. But there is only one plant or plantation where you can never find a snake. It's a tobacco plantation. That is my statistics. So if snakes fear tobacco, they kill. Why would a young person go for tobacco? You'll definitely die.
True. Yeah, and that's very true.
That's very true.
Okay, Phil.
But please, the young man first.
To add on what Amon talked about, tobacco, FLY, UG, and tobacco, and young people are being empowered. They're being taught things. They're being taught to realize where they belong. We have to call what you call my thing, not my thing. When you're saying my thing, you're identifying where you fall. I fall under graphics. I fall under art. We fall under a particular place in our talents and our abilities. So we identify that my thing is writing or singing. Then you're going to identify what's not my thing. Not my thing is smoking. And you have to, what you call staying true to your choices. You're going to go out there and stay true to the choices you have made. I've made a choice that my thing is writing and not my thing is smoking. And that's what we do as FLY UG. We're going to empower these young people and we're going to parent them. And many young people have been parented and many people believe that they can do greater things without involving themselves with smoking and tobacco, and they can soar up high with their talents and ability.
Well, in response to what you're saying, Sally, another Sally actually just wrote in and says, I think it's good to realize our children's potentials and dreams earlier on as they grow than to wait at a point when what they want and what the parent wants is colliding. Bill, you wanted to say something, or should I take the question from the audience first?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah, let's take that question.
Thank you very much. Mine is about this teen who has a parent, and that parent has like a tobacco factory, and he's forced to go and work. Do you get that person needs tuition or needs school fees? Or which advice can you give such a person? Should he stand and say, me, Dad, I'm not going to work, and he needs education? Should he leave and say, you must give me school fees and leave working? So which advice can you give such a person in such a situation?
She has a strong point and a good question. Who is taking it?
I'll take it. I'm a young person and I'll take it. Your parent has a tobacco factory, but it comes back to you.
Okay.
Your parent owning a tobacco factory does not mean you're going to come out and take tobacco. It doesn't mean like that. And if you're meant to use these fees that is going to be giving, you use it for better to change the environment you're in. You get? And if we come to this era, I'll not throw the question to the old era. If we come to this era, when young people can sit down, realize what they can do best, and they earn from that. We have young people in our society who earn money for what simple things they do, from craft, from bangles. And a person sits down and says, I'm going to make bangles. because that's their thing. I'm going to sing. That's their thing. I'm going to do social media. You get?
Okay.
So when that young person goes to university, they may use even that very money they earn to pay for their tuition. So you having a father who has a factory of tobacco, even there as the leading whatever factory and brand, does not make you take that tobacco. Make a choice yourself that you're going to stick to.
Well, I'm curious to hear from the old era, as you call them. Yes.
I think, it is actually a complicated situation.
Yeah.
Because it happens across the board with so many other things. And that's the situation. But, that is where the government needs to step in, because there are alternatives to making tobacco, to making cigarettes. There are alternatives. If you don't make cigarettes, will you not be able to earn? The money you've invested in that, can it not be invested into producing something else? You know what I mean? So it is just a matter of principle to say that let's change now. That's when the education part comes in. And I know one thing which I would say Fly is good for is that when you educate the child, it's easy for the child to get to the parent. When your child talks about something, you kind of listen. With an exception, of course, some, African parents, they do not listen to young people. But yeah, that is where the government needs to put more effort, and that is where we need more education for people to understand. It is like people saying that if you don't have a bar, then you don't have money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and I would like us to quickly close because our time is fast spent. We've spoken about schools, and yes, time really runs on this show.
Right.
So I'm curious to know what communities can do to help the teenagers.
What communities can do?
And there comes the book.
My friend who has been a young person shorter, because I've been a young person longer,
okay.
at 40, communities can do quite a lot. And as I earlier said, we have Fly UG, which is a community of young people in Uganda. And this community of young people in Uganda are reaching out to fellow young people and talking to them about what we call teen resilience. And resilience is about how they can resist the negative peer pressures that may lead them into failing to realize their potential.
Okay.
I'll give you an example from the question.
Very
My
quickly,
mother,
though.
very
Yeah.
quickly, all my uncles started on money that was got from brewing waraji. My mother up to now has never tasted waraji. So we are not telling the young people that please do refuse to do work for your parents. We're telling them, fine, you can make actually the right choice. Work for your dad, do whatever they're doing, but let not that activity you're doing lead you to failing to realize your dreams. So at Fly UG, the young person will talk about it more. We go to schools, we engage young people in issues on what is your thing, what is not your thing, and incidentally, number one, not my thing, is alcohol, tobacco. They say tobacco is not my thing. I don't want that. So if it's not their thing, then we ask them, if this is not their thing, how can you live to ensure that this not your thing does not fail you from getting to the promised land?
Okay. Your final thoughts, and I'd like to hear what you'd like communities to do for young people as you wrap it up.
Yeah, me, I'll talk in the perception of a young person. And me, what I like communities to do for young people, which is already happening, to keep on empowering young people, to keep on supporting young people, believing in what they are doing, which of course Fly UG is doing in the long run with different schools along Kampala, with the magazine publications. These magazines are just being free of charge in schools. Young people read content that is going to empower them, stories from the fellow young people who have made it. You know, when you're reading a fellow young person who has made it in life, there's a way it gives you a challenge. It's like, I can really make it. If you're actually 19 and the person who has made it is 16, you're like, my God. But these things are all in the Fly magazines.
Okay.
So young people would just get into those magazines. Parents out there, please get these young people to get to this information and understand it. They then go to our Facebook page, which is Fly UG, Instagram Fly UG, and we have YouTube videos which are there from different schools, and they're also having Fly UG on them. And they will do their thing, as you said, do your thing.
They should really make you their spokesperson. You agree?
I'm just a young person who is a Fly teen with other young people there.
Okay,
You have did it.
Bill, your closing remarks.
Yes, it's a good thing going with Fly. We encourage parents to pay a little bit more attention to what is happening with their children, because if you do not know, you will be shocked. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter what creed or what profession or what status you are, but there are so many addictive substances out there that are being actually given to young people in form of promotions, just so that they can get addicted and they have customers. So please be wise.
Bill, I've been seeing you everywhere on talking about tobacco use and all. What exactly is the organization that you are with now?
It is Healthy Youth Lifestyle Options, that is HILO. We are trying to limit the access and acceptability or the tolerance of substances that are abused. That is our main purpose.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much, all of you, for coming on the show. I see you with 3 copies. Would you like to give some to my audience?
These to the audience.
Yes, please.
So do I take or they come for them?
I don't know. Let's see who's wanting to.
You can also fail.
All right.
Well, it's always
you're dropping goodies.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, all of you, for coming and joining us for the show today. And that brings us to the end of it. Coming up is NTV Weekend Edition with Sheila and Huchida. Keep it NTV.